The idea that I could influence the world around me, especially when it comes to diversity and inclusion, which is, my calling and my purpose. Wow, I just wanted to know more and discover more. And yeah, I'm very keen to start my journey now and have a positive impact.
BSI presents The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards with Matthew Childs and Cindy Paragill. Today's episode is on why I've become a standards maker.
Hello, and welcome to The Standard Show. My name is Matthew Childs, and the aim of this podcast is to bring you the stories behind the standards. Now, since we started this podcast 2 years ago, we've welcomed over 100 guests from all sorts of organisations and talked to them about standards, about how they work behind the scenes, shaping and influencing the world around us. Not all of these guests have been standards makers, but they've all shared something in common, a relationship with standards in some way. And because of this, we like to ask them a couple of particular questions. Very often, the first questions. What's been your standards journey? How and when did it start for you? And where are you now? The answers often reveal a career steeped in standards, where someone has been seduced early on in their professional life about standards and what they do. Sometimes the answers reveal a standards seduction that has taken place relatively recently instead. Or occasionally, through these conversations, we discover that people have literally stumbled into standards and who now find they don't want to leave. This episode is my conversation with someone who's only just starting out on their standards journey. I suppose you could say they're at the packing their luggage stage. And that someone is Solène Anglaret, the voice you heard at the top of the episode, talking about her light bulb moment about wanting to get involved in standards. Born and raised in France, Solène started her career in the environment and travel industries before finding a way into the world of diversity and inclusion. She's currently Diversity and Inclusion Partner at Innovate UK, the UK's national innovation agency. But there are other interests too. Solène is an entrepreneur, presenter and author. She's published 4 books on the themes of identity, home and belonging, including a book of poetry. And also launched her own talk show called The Inclusion Conversation, aimed at breaking down borders and bringing the world closer together, as she describes, one conversation at a time. And now we can add to that already impressive list, standards maker, in the field of diversity and inclusion. Solène has become a member of HCS/1/2, the BSI Committee for Human Capital Standards. And she'll also be involved in ISO TC 260, the international committee for these standards. She'll be a member of a task group supporting the communication of the standards produced by this technical committee. We'll hear Solène talking about her motivations for starting her standards journey, her experiences so far, and what she's looking forward to most about getting involved. Before we hear from her, a reminder that here on The Standards Show, we really welcome your feedback. Please rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts, especially if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Find and follow us on Twitter at Standard Show and on Instagram at The Standard Show. And check out the show notes for all of the ways to get in touch. Hi, Solène. Welcome to The Standard Show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's our absolute pleasure. Now, I introduced you as someone who's been involved in the environmental sector and the travel industry, and who now finds herself in the world of diversity and inclusion in innovation. But that you're also a presenter, entrepreneur, author, even a poet, and now standards maker. So I suppose what I'd like to know is, who or what is Solène Anglaret?
Wow, I've never been called what before. Been asked what am I? Maybe I am a robot after all. So yes, I'm Solène. I was born and raised in France. When I was 18, I left for the first time. I moved to Norway, and then after that, I lived and worked in 6 different countries and traveled to, I think it's 54 now. So yes, I love my traveling, very passionate about that. And hence, I suppose, finding my way into the travel industry at the start of my career after a couple of years working in water and waste. So quite different. And now I work in innovation. I help young people take their idea and bring it into reality, which is amazing. And that's what I've been looking for, I suppose, throughout my career. I think that's why I've tried so many different things. One, I get bored easily, but two, I also always was looking for that meaning. I want to do something that has a positive impact, that really changes the world in some way. And so I tried lots of different ways of how I could do that. And hopefully I'm getting closer and closer to having that large, meaningful and positive impact that I would love to have on the world. And so outside of work, like you've pointed out, I do a lot of other activities, again, driven by that vision, that mission to break down borders and bring the world closer together. And I'd like to do that one conversation at a time. And for me, conversation can be a written piece. So hence, publishing several books around identity, belonging, home. It can also be a spoken piece. So I do host a talk show called The Inclusion Conversation, where we talk about different aspects of diversity and inclusion and bring, people from lots of different backgrounds as guests, but also as attendees to just share their stories and ask each other questions. And it's one of my favorite things that I'm doing at the moment, amongst a lot of other presenting and speaking opportunities that are coming through all around that that topic of diversity, inclusion, but also mental health and well-being as well. So yeah, so glad to be here. Thank you, Matthew, for having me. I can't wait to get stuck into this conversation.
Well, you've had a fascinating journey to this point. Now, you're currently working for Innovate UK. Tell us a bit more about that particular role.
Yes, so currently I work for Innovate UK KTN, which is part of Innovate UK, the government agency for innovation. My role is I'm a diversity and inclusion partner focusing on young innovators. So basically, I help young people from 18 to 30 who win a Innovate UK award and grant to turn their business idea into a reality. And really grow and develop that. I do that through, honestly, like the best aspect ever, which is all about communication, marketing, organizing events, learning opportunities, networking, connecting them. So it's really that kind of program management, if you like, but focused on more of those pieces, while other people in the team are maybe more focused on the operational side of things and also the investment side of things, which obviously is the most important thing for a lot of our young people. But I like to think that I do the fun stuff.
Now, Solène, you've talked about your fascinating background and all the things you've done in your life so far. Now, on the Standards Show, we love our Standards journeys. We ask pretty much all of our guests about how it started for them. But I wonder, in terms of your motivations for wanting to become a standards maker, was there a light bulb moment for it to start for you? Why have you decided to become a standards maker?
Great question. And I owe it all to you, Matthew. So this is going to be a singing your praise answer.
Is this where I start to blush now?
I don't know if I should thank you or blame you just yet, because I haven't started, you see. But yes, absolutely. This is when you start to blush. So we met because we were discussing how do we get more young people involved in developing and informing standards, because as you told me in that meeting, the average age of standard makers is quite advanced, let's say. What was it again? Did you have the figure in mind?
It's around sort of 55, 56.
Yes, there you go. So, and I look after people, young people, like I said before, young entrepreneurs, innovators in their field who are from 18 to 30. So imagine how much they could bring the average down if, even just a few of them got involved. So that's how we started the conversation. And Matthew, I asked you a bit of a provocative question in the conversation, if you remember. I was like, but this is a voluntary role. So what's in it for them? And your answer is what got me thinking, well, what about me getting involved in this work? Because you said through standards, we can literally shape and change the world. And if you remember from my initial introduction, this is what I want to do, that I want to change the world. And so the idea that I could influence the world around me, especially when it comes to diversity and inclusion, which is, my calling and my purpose, then wow, like I just wanted to know more and discover more. And yeah, I'm very keen to start my journey now and have a positive impact.
Well, that is fantastic to hear. Now, I'm going to ask. We'll talk in a second about the sort of standards you're going to be involved with, but I want to focus on this issue of diversity and inclusion that you mentioned there. Why are those particular issues so important to you?
Oh, yeah. Wow. That is a massive question, and it's got many different angles. I'll just focus on a couple. One, I think, is the personal perspective. So I think a lot of people in diversity and inclusion often have, that approach like from a personal story. So for me, living in different countries, traveling, I kept meeting people and realizing, wow, we have so much in common. Our similarities are incredible. And also, we are so unique and so different. How come we're struggling to, find peace and being able to live together as one humanity? Like, what is driving this? Because I can see that, we really could. And even me lost in China, being all different, not understanding anything, pretty quickly I realized like people have very similar ways of thinking. They have, things they're looking forward to, like things they want for their family, for themselves. So many similarities, and yet it's so different. And I found myself also adapting and changing to the culture. So that really culture piece was my entry point into diversity and inclusion. Then obviously being a woman and the whole issue around gender, pay equality, and especially when you talk about the world of entrepreneurship, 1% of VC investment going to women-led businesses, all of that was really also, driving me. Then if you add to that the fact that over the past couple of years, I think everyone's been challenged with their mental health, and for me personally, it's been a really, really intense journey. I actually was diagnosed with a mental health condition that I've been carrying since I was a child, just was really good at hiding it. And so realizing that you are neurodivergent and what that means as well in the workplace and in the ways that you function, so all of that personal element brought me into diversity and inclusion. But above all, what makes me then stay in the field and want to do more is that element of equality and equity. I just want to find a way, a space where I can contribute to making the world fairer, making it more equal, but also mainly making it more equitable. Because equality just means having the same thing for everybody. But the reality is not everybody starting from the same starting point and in the same context. So that equity piece is so important. And having certain protected characteristics while having also a lot of privilege that I'm very aware of. Obviously, you can't see me, but I am white, for example, so I have white privilege. So being very aware of that dynamic and how, therefore, I can, leverage my own differences and my own privileges to create safe spaces, to make and drive change. That's what's brought me into this space, and that's what's keeping me into this space, because there's so much to do globally to make the world a more peaceful and a more fair and a more equitable place.
Hi, this is Cindy Parakill, just popping up here to say that if, like Solène, you want to make a difference and shape and change the world to make it a better and fairer place, then why not become a standards maker with BSI? Standards affect all of us every day, wherever we go, whatever we do. By defining good practice, they help people, organizations, the economy, and society to do things better. Solène is going to be using her expertise and experience to develop human capital standards. But if that's not your thing, we have hundreds of committees working on thousands of standards, from artificial intelligence to zinc-enriched crops, and everything in between. We welcome applicants from all fields, backgrounds, and career stages. Our goal is simple: to have a balance of views around the standards making table. So, start your standards making journey now by visiting bsigroup.com/get involved.
Now, I mentioned, Solène, that you're getting involved because you want to, as you described there, you want to help shape the world and make it a better place in which to sort of live and work. So what standards then are you going to be involved with? What standards and what committees are you going to be sitting around the table on?
Yes, I'm really excited. So I'm going to be involved in a couple of one committee and one subcommittee. So I'm still, practicing the names. So one is HCS/1/2, and that's International Human Resources Management. And under that, there's a lot of work being done in terms of diversity and inclusion standards. And actually, there's been a new standard released just recently. So that's why I'm also getting involved in the subcommittee called ISO TC/260, which is going to be all about communicating the new standards, the new standard around diversity and inclusion, especially across the world, which is so exciting because in diversity and inclusion, like, we need a little bit more structure, I would say. I hope my colleagues would agree with me. It's been an amazingly growing field, especially since the tragic death of George Floyd and everything that was brought to the surface as a consequence of that. And there's so much work to do. And there's so much great work that has been done without having that much, let's say, structured and agreed. It's kind of like you have a train and there are no rails, and you're like having actually, you have several trains and they're all kind of going in different directions and they're not quite sure how this is working. And it's like, oh, how about if we put some rails? Might make us even, more effective. And also more able to learn from each other and from having those best practices in place. So yeah, very excited to get stuck in, but it's very early days. I'm just setting up the all of the platforms and things like that at this stage, and waiting for my
I
first
think you're
meeting.
No, I like this because we obviously, to continue with the sort of journey analogy, maybe you're at the sort of packing your bags and planning stage of this particular job, or waiting at the platform station, as you said, to get on that particular
Yes.
train. So in terms of this of the process so far, then you said obviously it's relatively early days, but what has been that process so far? How did it all happen? What interactions have you had with BSI so far and other standards makers?
Yes, so far, well, so it first started, I applied online. So actually, anyone can do this. So if you're interested in getting involved in standards in your field, it's pretty easy to apply. You can go on the website and you can search your area of specialty or interest, and then you submit your application with your CV. And then pretty quickly, I heard back, and there was interest from the committee, which was excellent. And then once they agreed to bring me on board, then I've been just signing up to the different systems. There's one main platform where kind of all the documents are sitting, and where you can find like all the updates and the minutes for meetings and stuff like that. So I still need to dive into that in a bit more detail. I feel like I have a lot to get through and to learn. But yeah, it's all very, very exciting stuff. And then in terms of like at the real beginning, there was also a training session to explain to us a little bit more about standards, how they get made, why, how does it work, kind of British level, then with international level standards. And also how to use the system and things like that. And that was really, really great. There were lots of people on the call that I was on, and doing lots of, different things. And I remember hearing one person mentioning that they were working on a dental related standards. And oh my God, I will tell you, I am terrified of like teeth cavities. I don't like, like dentist is like the one job I could never do. Like even if you paid me like 10 million, I could never, ever. So immediately it piqued my attention just from that intro. And it's really hilarious that then this person then from my intro also, piqued their interest because they reached out to me. They actually work for a university in Wales, and they were interested in perhaps collaborating in, educating their students around resilience as an entrepreneur. And so, yeah, it's just so amazing. I just think, wow, how crazy is that? So I'm already making some great connections. Oh, and to mention finally that I also had a meeting with the community manager, which was lovely. She's been really, really great in just making me feel welcome, and also, encouraging me to take my time, just, make myself feel more familiar with everything. And don't worry, like it's all going to kind of fall into place very shortly. So yeah, that's been my journey so far.
I think that's fantastic, isn't it? About one of the wonderful things about the Standards community is that it's bringing together people from all sorts of different perspectives and backgrounds, and you're already as you say, started making those connections and developing a network before you've actually even started, which is fantastic to hear. I just wonder, Solène, when is in practical terms, when's your first sort of committee meeting? When will you first get around that table?
Well, that's a great question because I don't know yet is the answer. Actually, I received a doodle poll last week, and we're all asked to contribute the dates when we are available. So it looks like it's going to be September, late September, early October. So I'm assuming because of summer holidays, a lot of people are away. So yeah, but in the meantime, I think there's going to be maybe a subcommittee meeting. Not sure. So we'll find out.
Now, for someone who adores travel and it's been a big part of your life, I just wonder then, you've started your journey here, and you've got some things in the pipeline, some things to look forward to. But what are you looking forward to most about getting started on your Standards journey?
Oh, I can tell you always what I look forward to the most about pretty much everything I do is the people. I just can't wait to meet the people that are, involved in the standard, that have developed the diversity and inclusion standard, what brought them there, what did they learn from doing it, and how can we best communicate about this all together into, the extended diversity and inclusion practice and community worldwide. Really, for me, it's about it. Yeah, it's about that all those connections, and how amazing to be involved in the ISO level where I'll be getting to meet people from all over the world. Which, yeah, I just love that. I absolutely love it.
Well, Solène, thank you so much for being with us here on The Standards Show and for sharing with us your Standards journey so far.
Thank you so much for having me, Matthew. I really appreciate it.
And will you come back again and tell us how it's going?
I would love to come back again if you'll have me. I'd love to keep you up to date with how my Standards journey is going.
You have been listening to an episode of The Standard Show with Matthew Childs and Cindy Parakill. Subscribe to us now, wherever you get your podcasts.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.